Oftentimes nowadays, it's very difficult for us to have this decision-making skill. It's oftentimes difficult for us to not be controlled by these thoughts that we have. And oftentimes, a lot of what is going on is we are just controlled by our own ego. So today we're going to be talking about ego, and we're going to be talking about how the ego is like these layers that contain us in our lives. And the more that we can peel back these layers like an onion, the more we're going to be able to uncover our true selves and uncover what decisions truly are most authentic for us in our lives. What's going on, guys? My name is Jake Smith, and this is Beyond the Physical. This channel is about breaking down things like esoteric things, philosophical things, scientific things, into bit-sized pieces that we can digest to help us in our daily lives. And that's the goal of this channel, is to internalize all of this for our own aid in our own life. And so today we're going to be talking about the ego. And as we are able to peel back these layers of the ego, we're going to more understand our true authentic self, and we're going to be able to make clear, more intentful decisions in our life, which is what everybody wants. We want to be able to make decisions that can benefit us the best way possible. Today, we're also going to be relating this to scientific studies that talk about how meditation and practices like meditation, when you peel back these layers, create what's called gray matter. And gray matter, we're going to talk about, influences your ability to create and make healthy decisions for yourself. So it's very important for us to understand first what the ego is. The ego is this part of us that says, I know what's best. I know it's best for me. I know it's best for me every day. I know it's best for me every minute. I'm going to plow forward with my stubbornness to make whatever happens, and I'm going to force it to happen. In the gist of it, that's pretty much what the ego is. It's us grasping to what we think we know, and what we think we know better than, say, the universe or God or whatever you believe in. We know better than everything else there is out there. We know. Okay, that's what the ego is. It's basically saying we know. Okay, or I know. Okay, so to understand the ego, I kind of like to use the onion, or an onion, right? And the further back we peel this onion, the more authentic we can understand ourselves. But we can't understand ourselves very well until we're able to see the core of this onion. So what I like to think of, and this is just an example, right? So say I have this thought, this idea, this emotion that's tied to this ideal set that I have, right? That's the ego. And one of those ideas is that all athletes are jerks. Okay, so I have this onion, and on the outer coating, the idea is all athletes are jerks. But when I ask myself, when I'm meditating, when I'm considering things, I'm considering my own thought process, I say, okay, are all athletes jerks, or are just baseball players jerks? Because the experience that I had was 3 baseball players were jerks to me. This is just an example, right? I'm a baseball player, so it's funny for me. So now I'm considering, like, are all athletes jerks, or is it just baseball players? Okay, it might just be baseball players because I only dealt with baseball players. So you peel back an onion. So now we're getting closer to the truth. Now you say, are all baseball players jerks, or was it just those 3 guys? And you say, it might have just been those 3 guys. I don't think it was all baseball players. That just doesn't really make sense. Okay, great. So you peel back another layer. And then you say, are these 3 people, are these 3 dudes jerks? Or did they decide to act out of a certain way because of a certain situation? Okay, that's probably more practical. Maybe they were in a situation where they felt pressure to act like a jerk. That seems closer to the truth. And therefore, I peel back another layer. And the closer you can get with an idea like this, the more truth and the more understanding you can have about yourself. So that's what the ego is in a very short version of this example. So Rumi is this phenomenal poet, right? Eastern poet. I have this quote that I love from him. It's I wrote it down actually so I don't forget it. But your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So it's that barriers idea where I've set up barriers for myself to keep myself safe, right? The ego is this false sense of safety, right? I've put up barriers for myself, for my life, so that I can think very, very in depth, like very focused. But it's a false sense of focus, right? If I say all athletes are jerks, it's very easy for me to stay into my little bubble and to stay looking through this little straw, right? But if I go, you know what, life is fluid, there was probably just the situation, then I start to peel back these layers of the ego. I peel back these barriers, and it's not to seek for love, but it's just to, like he said in the quote, but it's like to remove these barriers that were keeping me from it. Like, are all baseball players jerks? Am I going to put all of my hate into this entire set of a community, or was it most likely just a scenario that is fluid and that happens? It's probably the latter, right? So a lot of what we're thinking and what we're believing is in this set of an ego. Okay, so here's a really cool part. So in science, there are a lot of studies that talk about what's called gray matter. And the role of gray matter in the brain is to allow us to make healthy, insightful decisions. So there is actual physical pieces, physical elements to our brain that allow us to more think clearer, have better memory, have better emotional control, better self-control, and all of that deals in what's called gray matter. So they're finding that there's gray matter in our brain that is allowing us to have these capabilities. And one of the ways that we can influence this gray matter, increase this gray matter, so we can have those benefits, is to do things like meditation. But not only meditation just for meditation's sake, but is to peel back these layers of barriers that we give ourselves. So the more that we're able to be introspective of what we're doing, science is showing that you increase the amount of gray matter in your brain. And as you increase the amount of gray matter in your brain, you're also going to be reoccurring this decision-making process. You're going to be increasing your amount of energy, of awareness, emotional control. So the more that you can meditate, the more that you can self-reflect, because that's what meditation, that's the gist of meditation, is self-reflection, to peel back these layers of the ego, so that, like Rumi said, it's like peeling back these barriers, right? Taking down these barriers. If you're able to take down these massive barriers, then you're going to be able to stimulate this gray matter. And when you stimulate this gray matter, you're going to grow this gray matter, and you're going to be able to make healthier, more decisive decisions for your life. And you're also going to be able to have more self-control as well. So in summary, if you start to continually making these sweeping judgments, sweeping statements about these major things in your life, you're going to start to think in a very small, very controlled manner. Basically, if you say things like I mentioned, like all athletes are jerks, then what you're doing is you're closing off all of athletes in your brain. You're going to close off that entire section of people, that entire section of whatever it is. At any time you try to meet an athlete or anything, you're going to close that part off. But that, if you start to do that for that, then you're probably going to do it for other things. And when you start to do that, you limit the possibilities for yourself. You increase the barriers that you're giving yourself. You increase the barriers that you're giving your brain, decreasing the amount of gray matter in your brain. That will decrease the amount of personal memory, emotional, self-control kind of elements that you have in your life. So it's very important for us to at least try to self-reflect, right? And that's what meditation is. So in the gist of it, if you're able to start to peel back these layers of the ego, right? Because that's what we do when we meditate or we self-reflect. So when you peel back the layers of the ego, you're going to more fully understand who you are. You're going to increase this amount of gray matter in your brain, and you're going to be able to have more self-control to do the things that you want in your life, to make the decisions you want to make in your life. You're not going to be having to be controlled. And it sounds counterintuitive because what you're doing, you think what you're doing is controlling pieces of your life to like give you this narrow life that you want. But in reality, if you can think of everything as this fluid motion, as this fluid self, as the universe is something that's fluid, then you increase the amount of gray matter in your brain and you can more fluidly navigate your life. And that's the goal for this video, is to say, the less ego you have, the more fluid you become, the more gray matter you create, the better self-control you have. And so with that, I feel super lucky to be here. My name is Jake Smith, and this has been Beyond the Physical. I always forget this, and in like every video, I just always remember at the very end to say like and subscribe. That's part of how this YouTube thing goes. The more of that I get, the more encouraged and things move smoothly for me to create more videos. So again, my name is Jake Smith, and this has been Beyond the Physical.